I think it is a watershed. It is going to be a turning point in the fight against climate change and global warming. And I say that because the way the decision works, it does two things. It threatens both governments and polluters with the possibility of having to pay monetary damages and reparations if they don't do something to stop the emission of greenhouse gases quickly. And then it goes on. The second thing it does is it says, governments, you have an obligation to pass laws that will regulate these polluters and make sure they do stop. And this combination, I think, will have big ramifications down the road. Australia has now been threatened with the possibility of having to pay monetary damages to the victims of climate change in other countries. Why wouldn't any Australian government, be it this government or a coalition government, want to guard against that? So, in my view, this two-step approach that the court has come up with is simply brilliant.
Until we're able to get environmental laws that are fit for purpose, we have a situation where no one wins in terms of business wants to be able to make sure it can get decisions in a timely way. And from the environment perspective, we want to make sure we're better able to protect our precious environment and our Australian heritage.
For the last 30 years, governments have been trying to pass laws to stop greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. And they have been unsuccessful. And why have they been unsuccessful? Because the polluters have been able to create a wedge issue among voters, often using misinformation to delay and frustrate the passage of new laws, which would require them to stop. And the decision is brilliant in that it tries to put a stop to that, and I think it will. Now the governments have been threatened. Before, they had pledges that they made at the COPs, and if they didn't fulfill the pledges, there were no consequences to them. Now there's a possibility of governments having to pay real monetary damages to the victims. So they're going to do something now. Now they're going to try to legislate. The question is, how are they going to try to legislate? Are they going to do what they did for the last 30 years, which is come home from the cops, sit down with the polluters, and try to negotiate a deal? I think if they try that, they'll probably end up with the same results that they had over the last 30 years. I think that what governments should be thinking about doing is not focusing again on regulating business, but on changing corporate governance so that naturally corporations no longer think that they should be allowed to continue to cause severe harm, severe damage to the environment. And there's a very simple way to do that I believe the voters will support and doesn't have to be negotiated with the big polluters. And that simple way is this. Ask voters, or rather, voters should ask candidates in upcoming elections. Do you believe that corporations should have the power to severely damage the environment until government can find a way to pass a law to make them stop? Our experience over the last 30 years has been that that doesn't work. So the only solution really is to take away that power. Now, we all know that corporations right now, the directors have one duty: to make money for shareholders. But it's a very simple thing to change that. That's in the corporate law of every country in the world. The duty of directors is to make money for shareholders. It's a very simple change to add, but not at the expense of severe damage to the environment. So essentially what you're doing is you're asking corporations to lift their game, to give up the crutch that they've been able to use to make money in the past, which is basically dump the pollution on everybody else, and stop it. Nothing in those 11 words will eliminate the profit motive. The profit motive for them will still apply. They'll just have to do a better job of how they make it. And making money, but not at the expense of severe damage to the environment, is not too much to ask.
The Sustainable Hour.
For green, clean, sustainable July.